These artifacts could be everything we've been looking for. Another great secret the universe is asking us to unravel.
Starfield's character creator is highly in-depth, and it allows players to get serious about their character in order to roleplay. While choosing a background and a face is extremely important, it's easy to argue that the most important part of the character creator are the traits that you'll choose. Traits in Starfield give your character some inherent advantages and disadvantages, but if you're smart about how you're planning on building your character, you'll be able to outsmart some of the disadvantages and make yourself into something of a powerhouse. Here are the top 10 best traits to choose when building your character in Starfield. Remember that this list is subjective, so if you don't see your favorite on it, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Number 10. The Hero Worshipped trait. The Hero Worshipped trait is something of an inside joke that's a throwback to the Adoring Fan from Oblivion, but it can still be pretty great. With it activated, you'll have an Adoring Fan of your own who will approach you while you're in New Atlantis and want to join your ship's crew and shower you with gifts.
Is it you? Is it really, really you?
The good thing about this trait is that you can cash in on the gifts that they send your way, but you can still remove the Adoring Fan from your ship so you don't have to deal with their constant pestering 24/7. The trait doesn't change anything about your stats, but it can still be a great way to obtain some free items without the hassle of dealing with the fan too often. Number 9. The Terra Firma trait. This is another pretty good trait, but its usefulness really depends on your playstyle. The Terra Firma trait will give you more health and oxygen while on the surface of planets, but you'll have less while you're in space. On one hand, chances are you'll be spending more time in your Starfield playthrough on the surface of planets as opposed to in space, but those moments when you do board enemy ships, you'll be working with less stamina and health. It's a trade-off, but one that I think is worth it. Number 8. The Kid Stuff trait. The Kid Stuff trait is one of the most interesting traits in Starfield from a storytelling perspective. With this trait, your character's parents are alive and well, something that's not always the case with video game protagonists. Since they're still kicking it, you can go and visit them whenever you want. However, 2% of all the credits you earn will go to them. This is a fun trait since it adds a layer of texture to your character's backstory. Plus, even though you'll owe 2% of all your credits, when you do visit them, they'll frequently give you some solid loot as a gift. Number 7. The Neon Street Rat trait. The Neon Street Rat trait is a trait that's tied to your character's background. With it, you'll have been born and raised in Neon, so you'll be given some additional dialogue options during the game that people from other settlements won't have. On top of that, you'll gain more credits from completing certain Neon quests. The downside is that any non-Neon factions will put higher bounties on you than usual. That said, if you don't break the law too often, that doesn't actually matter that much. Number 6. The Freestar Collective Settler trait. The Freestar Collective Settler trait is essentially the same thing as the Neon Street Rat trait. With it, you'll have grown up as a settler within the Freestar Collective. Just like the Neon Street Rat trait, you'll gain more credits from quests in the Freestar Collective. Considering that they're a huge faction, this will cover a lot of the planets in the game, which makes it a bit better than the Neon Street Rat. Keep in mind, however, that you will have higher bounties from other places. Number 5. The United Colonies Native trait. The United Colonies Native trait is just like the previous two on this list. This time, you were born and raised in the United Colonies. One major reason it's better than the others is that this automatically opens you up to purchasing homes in the UC. Otherwise, you need to serve in their military to buy homes from there. Just like the other two traits, you'll get more credits from UC quests and higher bounties from other factions. Number 4. The Taskmaster trait. The Taskmaster trait is one of the most useful traits in Starfield, but there's definitely a trade-off with it. With this trait, you'll have to pay more for certain crew members, but because you're paying them more, they'll tend to your ship better, meaning that damaged pieces will repair themselves on their own. This is an amazing trait for anyone who plans on spending a lot of time in combat with other ships in space, since it'll save you a ton of cash in the long run. While the idea of paying more now for crew members might be a little bit irritating, remember that some crew members are still completely free to hire. Number 3. The Alien DNA trait. This trait is kind of interesting from a story perspective and has a pretty great early game bonus. Before the events of Starfield started, your character volunteered to have alien DNA mixed with their DNA. This will increase your maximum health and oxygen stats, but health and food items will heal you for less than they normally would. While the reduced effectiveness of healing items seems like a pretty big trade-off, the increased stats you'll get from the alien DNA trait do make a pretty big difference, especially in the early hours of the game. Also, you can still research healing items to increase their effectiveness, although they might not ever be as good as they normally are without the trait. Number 2. The Empath trait. This trait is one that's helpful as long as you know how to use it properly. As an empath, you'll be able to feel the emotions of others strongly. This means that if you do something your companions like, they'll be more effective in combat. However, if you do something they hate, they'll be far less effective. While there's certainly a big trade-off with this trait in terms of combat effectiveness, you can get around the issue by filling your crew with characters who you feel align with your character morally. Just make sure you have a solid beat on how a character feels about morality before bringing them with you on a mission, and you'll be able to make the most out of the combat buff. Number 1. The Extrovert trait. The Extrovert trait is the best trait available to players in Starfield. It lets you use far less oxygen when exerting yourself as long as you're traveling with a companion. However, if you travel alone, you'll use more oxygen. What makes this trait an essential pick when creating your character is that most players will travel around with at least one companion of some kind throughout the game. In a lot of story missions, you'll even be forced to adventure with a companion. It's a great way to have more stamina without needing to do a whole lot outside of making sure that you've always got a friend around. And that's our list for the best character traits in Starfield. Did we miss your go-to favorite? Make sure to let me know in the comments below, and while you're down there, give this video a like, subscribe to Dual Shockers, and click the bell icon to be notified whenever we post more Starfield content.